Back in 1969, I was just re-elected for the third time as mayor of Biloxi. My wife and my family went down to Destin, Florida for a little vacation. And while we were down there, the folks suggested that Camille was going to come into Destin. So we got in our car with my family and came back to Biloxi. And the next night, I was with my wife at the Broadwater Beach Hotel dancing. And then we heard that the doggone storm had turned around and was going to come into the Mississippi Gulf Coast. And it didn't give us very much time to prepare. The next night, as a matter of fact, it was on us. I went down to the Buena Vista Hotel with Mr. Ray Butterfield, who was the manager of the Buena Vista. And at that time, we warned the citizens of the severity of the storm and asked them all to prepare and please get away from the city if they could, because it was a dangerous storm. I stayed with Mr. Butterfield at the Buena Vista Hotel until about 8 or 9 o'clock that night when the waters came in and covered the area and we couldn't broadcast anymore. So at that time, I got in my car and went out to the Emergency Operating Center located on Pat Harrison Avenue at that time. Now it's Veterans Boulevard, and named after Wade and Julie Guice. And we sat in there and talked to different people around the coast until about 1 in the morning, when my last call that I could make was to Jack Stanford at the Broadwater Beach Hotel. And then he told me that the water was 8 feet in his lobby. And I thought, my goodness, what are we going to do? So the next morning, as soon as daylight came, had Julie Guice, who was my emergency operating lady. Her husband, Wade, was in Gulfport working for the county. We didn't get in a car because we couldn't drive. We walked down the beach. And one of the first places I came to was my father's house, 2846 West Beach. It was completely gone. Wasn't anything there. Right down in the corner, Mr. and Mrs. Brown, their home was destroyed. And later we found them to be lost in that storm. Then we kept going on down and seeing that type of destruction to the White House Hotel where my father was staying. And it had significant damage. I'd been at the White House many times before during storms and had no problem. Then we went on down a little farther to the Buena Vista Hotel. My family was there. All of the folks that we knew at the Buena Vista, it almost blew down. The Buena Vista had a terrible time. They had to go in the hallways because all the windows broke out at the Buena Vista. And what a terrible time they had. Cars were just on top of one another in the parking lot in front of the hotel. We saw the Buena Vista Hotel, and then we left the Buena Vista and went on down the street. And there we saw the Rivera Hotel that was significantly damaged. And across the street was Agri-Guard Seafood Market, Desport Seafood Market, all wiped away. Mr. Costa Blajos' father had a nice restaurant there, and it was blown away. Wasn't any significant part of it left. We left there and went on down the street, and you couldn't believe the damage that we had on the front beach in Biloxi. And when you got as far as the seafood markets, and seafood, marble, shrimp, and oyster, Dubears, Mr. Siku had a factory there. It was just all gone. And the debris was maybe 10 feet high on the side of the roads where these factories had been working we went on around, and Mr. Crusoe, his factory was gone. Mr. Weems' factory was gone. Mr. Buddy Gillis used to run a factory on Back Bay. Fayard, Mr. Roy Rosales, all of these things were just absolutely gone, you see. They got together and tried to do the best they could to rebuild in some small ways. Some of them never could recoup from what they lost during this particular storm. And it was sort of marked the decline, really, of our seafood business in the city of Biloxi. But I found out in talking to our people what a great job Tommy Monroe, he was then a colonel in the National Guard, later got to be a general, but Tommy had a group of larks that worked all through the night of the storm. And there were so many horrifying stories at times, great stories at times, of those people running those larks and picking up people and saving lives all throughout the city of Biloxi. And it made you feel proud that we had those kind of people working for us in the National Guard to work all through this storm, because this was a tremendous storm, and saving lives as they did. Keesler Air Force Base was a tremendous help. They had significant damage out there, of course. And, but with all their damage, their airmen helped us quite a bit in helping us clean up after the storm. You know, I was the only mayor who had any experience on the coast. Mayor Philip Shaw was the new mayor at Gulfport. Mayor Joe Whitman at Pass Christian, Mayor Skelly at Long Beach. We went over in that direction. There were big vessels on the streets in the city of Gulfport. It's hard to believe. My cousin Wade Guice was the civil defense director over there, and he went all through the storm with them. And Pass Christian was just wiped away almost, you know, and Joe Whitman didn't know what to do. So I called these people together. I wore the same jumpsuit for about a week or two. It was pretty filthy when I got through it. We worked with our people down here trying to clean up the city first. Friends from all around South Mississippi and other areas, Mobile and New Orleans. Of course, New Orleans had their problems too. But they came and offered their services to help me. And they understood that when they came in, that we hoped to pay them if the federal government could help us. But if they couldn't help us, why, they were just out of that much effort. And they understood that, but they started working immediately, trying to clean up and help and fix the city. I want to say this. Senator John Stennis, Senator Jim Eastland, Congressman Bill Coleman, the President of the United States, Mr. Nixon, they all worked tirelessly from the very beginning with us to where we got some help in a short period of time. It didn't take more than maybe, I'd say, a month or two, and we were able to get some money in to help some of the cleanup activities that were going on in our community. And all of our great folks in the community were so willing to help and were able to get out and do their best to help first clean up Biloxi, then after that to build for the future. Right afterwards, in 1970, we were commended by the president and others on what a good job we were doing with our development work. And that's only a year after the hurricane had been here. We tried to clean up everything. Of course, I was younger in those days. And it really wasn't that difficult a job for me to talk about Biloxi, because I love Biloxi. And I had commissioners like Mrs. Fallow and Mr. Creel that could help And all of our citizens, Miss Brown is the Broadwater. She helped tremendously in rebuilding the Broadwater Beach. Mr. Jimmy Love had the White House Hotel and the Buena Vista. He immediately began rebuilding those hotels. And the other folks who had those types of operations, why, they cleaned up their businesses and started right away to rebuild. And we were just so proud of our citizens for the manner in which they acted after this.